Gentlemen, welcome to this course, Introduction to Linguistics. This is our first class, our first lecture. Inshallah, in this course or in this lecture, we are going to talk about the origins of language. But before we start talking and before we start talking about the origins of language, let's start by thinking a little bit about the term of linguistics. What does it mean, linguistics? In fact, linguistics include the systematic and scientific study of language. Linguistics is also concerned with understanding the structure and nature of language, which is divided into phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. All these subfields of linguistics shape what we know as linguistics. Linguistics also deals with other perspectives on language which are represented in specialized or interdisciplinary branches such as sociolinguistics, psycholinguistics, neurolinguistics, and second language acquisition. So in this course, we'll be focusing on the two parts of linguistics: the theoretical, which includes phonetics, phonology, and morphology, and the other part of linguistics, which is mainly applied and practical, which include sociolinguistics, psycholinguistics, neurolinguistics, etc. So these definitions for linguistics are very important, and every student should be aware of the meaning of linguistics and what does it include. Okay. Before we start talking about the origins of language, we should be aware that we don't know how language was originated. Yet we know that spoken language developed thousand years before written language. So this is, we can say this has been scientifically proved that spoken language has developed thousands and thousands of years before written language. Okay? In addition to this, it's estimated that some spoken languages have developed between 100,000 and 50,000 years ago. So it has, it has developed a very, very long time ago. Written languages have developed nearly 5,000 years ago. There is also there is ability of producing sounds and vocal patterning, which is shared among different creatures such as fish, birds, and other non-human creatures, but that's not a human language. Okay, so such creatures, for example, animals or non-human, don't share a human language. So human language is distinctive, is peculiar. There are some properties, there are some features which can be only applied to human language, and that's what we are going to talk about in our lecture 2, inshallah. No physical evidence relating to the speech of our distant ancestors that might tell us how language was existed in the early stages. So this is a very important piece of information. What we are going to talk about next is just speculations and expectations. Okay? So speculations about the sources of the origins of language. We have 6 different speculations. Okay? We have the divine source. We have the natural sound source. We'll be talking about these 2 theories. Another source of the origins of language is what is called the social interaction source, the physical adaptation source, which include teeth and lips, mouth and tongue, and larynx and pharynx, the tool-making source, and its relationship to the human brain, and the genetic source. Okay, so we have six main, different sources of the origins of language. Let's start by explaining the first point or the first source, which is the divine. When divine is always related to God, it's always or creator, okay, which means ilahi. Okay, so it's related to God or it's related to creator. It's something given by God or it's something given by the creator. So in most religions, it's believed that language appears to be a divine source that provides a human with language. Some experiments confirm that if a human infant, if baby, for example, get deprived of hearing language around them, they would spontaneously begin using God or creator-given language, as in the Semitic story, okay, which was reported by George Yule in his book. Okay, this is just one belief, or this, let's say, this is just according to some experiment. Yet there are other experiments which would a contradictory result. So in other experiments of children who lived in isolation, okay, without communicating or without keeping in touch with other humans, such experiment confirmed the results of divine source experiment, as in the cases of Victor and Aviron, who were discovered in the 19th century, as they didn't show a spontaneous language. These people who were deprived from their society, who were deprived from other creatures, other people, okay, in fact, they didn't speak the language. So we would say that the experiment showed contradictory results. Let's move to the second source regarding the origins of language. The second source is what is known as natural sound source. What we mean by this source or this view is based on the concept that natural sounds, which are attained through the auditory system that develops before birth, which later develop to identify sounds in the environment. So people, or let's say infants, are born with the auditory system, okay? This system enables us later on or enables these people to produce and to articulate language and to articulate sounds. So this will help humans to connect between a sound and the thing, or what we call it the organ, in order to produce that sound. Limitation of natural sounds lead to the development of primitive words, which were heard by early men and women around them. This person in 1922 called this idea of acquiring natural sounds, and based on this, they thought, or they developed two theories. These theories are called bow-wow theory and the other one poo theories. So what does these two theories what's the idea, or what are the ideas of these two theories? If we look at the first theory, okay, it focuses on imitation of sounds, then use it to refer to objects. So it's based on imitation, okay? It's based on imitation. For example, we have the word cuckoo, okay? So this word is mostly, it's acquired through imitation. In every language, there are words which seem to be naturally occurring sounds, such as splash and boom, okay, which may refer to sounds similar to the noises they describe. So this point is very, very interesting. Here we have kind of matching between the sound, okay, and the noise that would describe these words. So if I thought of splash, okay, splash, this noise is, or would give some hints or some clues to the meaning of it, to the meaning of this word. Yet it's hard to see how soundless things or abstract concepts such as truth have been referred to in a language that echoed natural sounds. Yes, some words like splash, because it's touchable. Okay, so it's easy to be understood. Whereas there are some words which are more abstract, like truth. So with such words, or with, we call it soundless words, okay, it's hard to see how such words have been referred to in a language that echoed natural sounds. Therefore, the view that language is only a set of words to describe names for things not always necessary. So we can't claim that all words which would describe names for things, okay? We have other words which may not necessarily describe things or names, okay? The other theory is based on that speech developed from the instinctive sounds people make in emotional circumstances. So that original sound of language came from natural cries of emotion such as pain, anger, or joy. Words such as ah, or wow, or oh are all used with sudden intakes of breath. Unlike when we want to talk, or when we take, or unlike when we want to talk, which is the opposite, of course. Let's move to the third source, which is social interaction source. As you see here, we have social interaction, which means, when I say social, or social is related to society, is related to communication. So it's related to, or it should involve more than one person. So it should include more than a human being. So this view is based on the idea that the source of our language is the physical effort of several people and interaction, which is to be coordinated. Okay, and I would say that there is a debate about this source, because there is just a school of thought which argue that language is a social production, is a social product. Okay, so social interaction or language is a product of social interaction. When people, or when a human being get communication, when a human being get social interaction with others, he will definitely acquire, or she will definitely acquire the language. It happens when a group of early humans develop a set of hums or groans that were used when they were carrying things. It claims that the development of a human language takes place in social context through groups, as I have just mentioned. So groups are very important in the learning process of language. Groups are important, particularly in the past, to main communication, which had different uses within their social interaction. Of course, okay, language has different uses, okay, for different social interaction and for different purposes. What about the fourth source of language? The fourth source of origins of language is the physical adaptation source. This source is also, or this speculation about the origins of language is interesting. This source is based on the physical features, human processes that are distinct from other creatures, particularly non-humans. As we know, humans have different features, have different physical abilities and different physical or different organs that non-humans don't have, which would enable such creatures, and I mean by that humans, which would enable them to articulate speaking. Okay? which may have enabled the speech production. Okay, we know that other humans, other non-human creatures may have not been enabled such features that would lead them to utter language or to speak or to articulate some sounds. Our human ancestors showed adaptation to upright posture and revised rule for the front limbs. So there is adaptation, there is a change in I mean, there is a physical adaptation. Adaptation or change happened to fossilized skeletal structures, which later began to be similar to modern humans, which we know nowadays. So there is a change in the in the body of human beings. Okay, just 1,000 years ago, perhaps that humans were unlike the humans which we know nowadays. The partial adaptation appeared to be more relevant to speech. Most of the changes, most of the adaptation that happened to human beings are relevant to speech, and mostly relevant and mostly happened in the auditory system. Such features wouldn't enable speech in some primates, and what I mean by primates, animals. Yet they are claims that a creature with similar features might have the capacity for speech production. Yes, some creatures, some animals, they might have the capacity for speech production, okay, but they are still not able to produce the language as human beings, simply because they have different auditory system and different articulatory system as well. For example, one of the examples, let's say, or one of the things, or one of the facets that happened to the physical adaptation is relevant to teeth and lips. Okay, what exactly happened? What happened is as follows: human teeth are different from other creatures, and this this enabled the human to produce sounds such as th or the. Okay, other humans or other non-human creatures such as animals might not be able to produce such sounds. Human teeth are also upright and suitable for chewing. Okay, human lips have intricate muscle interlacing more than other primates. So, this organ, which is lip, is not as simple as we know. No, it's very intricate, and there are many muscles which interlace together in order to produce some sounds which may not be produced by other primates. Human lips are appropriate to produce sounds such as p or p and b and m. Okay. So these sounds are peculiar, or these sounds are features, and they cannot be produced by other creatures other than human beings. There is also a physical adaptation happened to mouth and tongue. What exactly happened? As we know, a human mouth are small compared to other creatures. You know, some creatures have got a huge mouth as a part of an extended vocal tract with an L shape, not a straight path from front to back. So this is different. Okay, human beings or human's mouth is different. Okay, our mouth looks like an L shape. A human tongue are shorter, thicker, and more muscular than other creatures. What's the reason for this? That's to produce, or that's to enable humans to produce a variety of odd sounds inside the oral cavity. okay, inside the oral cavity. The oral cavity is very, I mean, it's like the chamber for producing, most sounds. The intricate muscles in mouth and tongue and lips and teeth help to articulate a wide range of shapes and a more powerful delivery of sounds produced through these shapes. So this complexity in the mouth and tongue, okay, has would enable a human being to produce very stressful, for example, very stressful sounds, a wide range of sounds which cannot be produced by animals, for example. Okay, let's come to the third facet or the third aspect of physical adaptation, which is larynx and pharynx. Okay, human larynx is called the voice box, which comprises of vocal folds and vocal cords, which different other creatures, which other creatures might not have this organ. Larynx helps a human to choke on pieces of food. Human pharynx has a longer cavity than many other creatures, which works as a resonator for increased range and clarity of the sounds produced through the larynx and vocal tract. So we can elaborate, we can summarize we can summarize this by saying that there is, across years, across a number of years, there is a physical adaptation that happened to a human being, okay, which enabled them to produce language and sounds. So therefore, there are advantages of getting this extra vocal power to outweigh the potential disadvantages from an increased risk of choking, which might lead to death. Okay, so there are many advantages and benefits for this extra vocal power, which is produced, or which is produced by larynx. Let's move to the fifth source regarding the origins of language, which is known as the tool-making source. It's speculated that the human hands and manual gestures, or body language in general, may have been a precursor of language. 2 million years ago, humans managed to develop preferential right-handedness and had become able to make stone tools. So tool making is evidence of a brain at work. What I mean by this is that the tool making source is relevant to the human brain, okay, and it has something to do with the human brain. So the human brain is lateralized. We have two parts. We have the right hemisphere and left hemisphere, and each hemisphere has its own function. So left hemisphere of the brain is responsible for complex vocalization and speaking, or language in general. So left hemisphere of the brain is in charge, or is responsible for complex vocalization and speaking and language in general. Interestingly, motor cortex, which is part of the brain, so this cortex, this part of brain which is in charge of motor, controls the muscles of the arms and hands. Let me repeat this. Interestingly, motor cortex that controls the muscles of the arms and hands is next to articularly muscles of face and jaw. So it's believed that there is a connection between language using, okay, and tool using abilities of a human. Okay, so we shouldn't leave, or we shouldn't ignore this kind of relationship or this connection between the what is relevant to the use of language and what is related to tool making, okay, or tool using abilities of humans. Many speculative proposals argue that the origins of speech is based on human producing single noises to indicate objects in their environment. Okay? So we have single noise to indicate a certain object in the environment. Yet it lacks a structural organization. All languages require the organizing and combining of sounds and signs in specific arrangement. And I think this is a fact across all languages. Okay, we need organizing, we need combining, we need a combination, sort of combination between sound and sign. These two things must fit together in order to produce, or in order to form, or to formulate what is known as language. In terms of tool making, it's not enough for human to grasp one rock to make one sound, but need to bring two rocks to create proper contact with the first and to develop a tool. So here we have a connection between different words, different sounds together. They must be attached together in order to formulate, in order to make something. Similarly, when it comes to language structure, the human may have developed the naming ability first for producing consistent noise, then to bring another specific noise to build a complex message. So, as we have just seen, in terms of tool making, okay, we need to make something, okay, by attaching two things, two objects together. And this thing would be applied to language structure, where we need more than one noise in order to formulate or to build a complex message. Let's come to the last source of origins of language, which is known as the genetic source. Okay, genetic source. The human baby are born with larynx that is higher in the throat. That's to breathe and drink at the same time. After a few months, okay, or maybe years, the larynx descends, it gets smaller, and at the same time the brain develops and starts walking and talking. Okay? I mean here, the baby starts walking and talking. In fact, young child's language is complex and seen as more than physical adaptation of species. When it comes to young child's language, we can notice that this development in language happens in a very short time. It happens rapidly. Okay, so there is an adaptation. So it seems that language is an innate feature. So here we can raise a very important question: how this rapid, or what are the reasons for this rapid development? Is there any sort of innate features? Okay, this is just a speculation. What is known as innateness hypothesis, and based on this, some scholars claimed this hypothesis, which is known as innateness hypothesis. Innateness refers to something internal. So the innateness hypothesis refers to something in human genetics, in the gene, as the source of language. Possibly a crucial mutation, perhaps. We don't know. Okay, this is just a speculation. As we consider this hypothesis, there is a movement from fossil evidence, or from the physical source of adaptation, towards analogies with how computers work in terms of being pre-programmed or hardwired. So according to this hypothesis, it's argued that babies are born with what is known as innateness or pre-programmed. So kids or babies are born with having this ability because of speaking, because of being pre-programmed, or because of being hardwired. Yet we are not sure when this rapidly genetic change might take place. This is still a big question nowadays. We don't know how this rapid, in terms of children development of language, how this rapidly genetic change happens or might take place, and how it might relate to the physical adaptation. So now I come to the end of my lecture, and I hope you enjoy it. I wish you all the best, and I recommend you to read the full chapter. I try to summarize most of the issues and most of the important points that I would like you to emphasize on, but reading the chapter will give you a fuller understanding of this chapter. Hope to see you in the following lecture.